All right, I'm out on another beautiful Saturday fall day in Pennsylvania, and I'm here with Billie Jean and Pete, and I was detecting with them last week at the Bethany house. We had a fantastic time, and we're waiting for Mike from Great Finds. I had just dug literally my first signal, and out popped this really interesting token. I'm going to go over and check out see what Pete and Billie Jean have to say about it. But on the one side here it says, let me hold it up. On the one side here it says no cash value, but quite interesting on the other side is like a little shield and an eagle with the word freedom on it. So I don't think it's super old, but it's kind of cool. It's a really cool first find of the day. So this is basically what I saw come out of the hole, and was a bit perplexed, but also kind of excited by it first because it looked really cool. I thought maybe something old, but if you look at it, if you were to flatten out that handle and bend this part here over, this kind of this flat part over, and add a little bit more to it, I think you would have a spoon. So how this thing got as bent as it did, and I found a spoon recently, or a spoon handle I should say, that was bent up in some interesting ways, and I wonder if people had taken things that were no longer useful in their normal sense, so take like a spoon and make something out of it. Now I can't say for sure that that's what's happening here, but this seems to be bent at very particular angles. So it's very possible that somebody took an old spoon and made it into something else. That's my best guess with this anyway, so that's what I'm going with. A bent up spoon, missing the top part.
Mike had eventually showed up, and the four of us made our way over to another field. The permission we were on had multiple fields, so it's quite an interesting place. So we had walked maybe a quarter of a mile to get over to this smaller field. There you can see Billie Jean looking to pull something from the ground, and Pete walking away from me, and Mike is ground balancing his machine there, so he's really just starting out on the day here. So we made our way across that field and into the tree line, and there were some interesting structures in here. So at one point this was a farm, and I believe mostly a chicken farm. This first house, this first structure actually that I'm walking upon, a little bit eerie looking. You can see it's quite old. I think a really good breeze would knock this thing over, so I was a little careful around it. I believe that this would have held an animal or two, perhaps a mule or maybe horses. I'm not sure exactly what would have been in this particular structure, but it does seem to have kept some kind of livestock in there in those two pens that are there. The woodwork on this place is kind of interesting. Somewhat old wood, not super old, but this little shed here goes back a little bit of a ways, maybe the early 1900s, and some ivy growing up there, poison ivy, I believe. There were a couple structures in the woods here. This building I'm about to show here, I believe, was where they kept the chickens. Beautiful red color on it, faded over time. And what we're looking at inside here is actually some kind of auger that I believe they used to actually deliver food to all the chickens. And here I made my way over to a different part of the building. Some interesting weeds growing out of that container there. And here you can see the motor that drove that auger. So that was like a direct shaft onto that auger there. And there was a a small chain that came off of that motor that you could repurpose and attach to that gear that was just shown there. And it looked like they had a second auger from above. So I'm really not sure what that was for. My best guess was, like I said earlier, food delivery. And you could see the light coming through the slats up there. And I had just caught through this window there Mike making his way across.
I would not have thought. So Pete showing me here a chicken blinder.
Yeah, they would have put this little piece right here goes through their beak, and it would have allowed them to not see the other chickens. So basically help them so they didn't peck at each other and all that stuff. And then I just dug a mercury dime. I kicked the grass or the leaves here, and I had a mercury dime pop up. If I can find it now. There's the other set of chicken blinders. 40s, I think.
Oh, that's pretty. All right, I just found a interesting little piece. And if we zoom in there, we can barely make out the words cowboy. Missing the C and part of the O. Not sure what was to the right of it, but I do believe that is part of an old toy gun, perhaps a cap gun.
Here's another look at that token I found. My heart skipped a beat when I first saw this come out of the ground. I thought it was a unique coin or something more interesting than what it turned out to be, which is an arcade token. And here's another look at this tool that was repurposed from a spoon. I'm still quite unsure as to what this is. Upon cleaning it up a little, there is some signs of silver plating on this. And again, I've tried to figure out by moving this around and seeing how it possibly could have been used, but I think it comes down to a very specific tool to meet somebody's needs. You can see there's quite an intricate pattern on the handle there, and on the backside an equally nice little pattern showing up there. Not sure I'll ever figure out what this was used for, but it's something interesting to add to my collection. And one find that I didn't record while I was out there was this small circular piece of lead that's on the right. I put it next to a 3-ring mini ball Civil War bullet so you can see that it's possible that this was carved from a bullet. Soldiers would do that out of boredom. Not quite sure that's what this is, but that's my best guess, but certainly could have been just a piece of lead.